Once all the hexagon pieces are joined together, I'm going to install fabric that's decorative in the front, and I'm just going to stitch down the frames covering all the pieces, and then my table runner will be complete. When I get ready to sew any of these frames down, I have two things. I have a buttonhole reed, particularly if I'm doing the outside edge, and I have a little paint dropper. It's a almost a stiletto, but it's got a ball on the end, and I can use that to readjust fabric without poking it. So let's get going. I also have a walking foot on, and I stitch at 4 millimeters, which is huge, but if I make a mistake, it comes out easy, and there are no real raw edges, so even if my no threads are going to come raveling out. So all I do is sew. As I approach this beveled edge, I simply flip under the fabric and pull it up. And I get some of these threads out of my way. And I just sew until I get to the join of that beveled edge to the line of stitching I just completed. Now, if I don't like the way this looks, I reach underneath with my little paint dropper and I gently smooth the fabric to a position that I like a lot better. And then I sew down, pivot, and I have my machine set to plant and pivot. If there's any threads here, I just tuck them in and sew back. Then I turn my corner and continue sewing this way. If I feel I need to be up a little bit, I just take a stitch in on a diagonal in that direction. Okay, here's something interesting. This is a little bit longer than I really want it to be. So normally I'd use a stiletto to hold the fabric and kind of compress it a little bit, but I don't have a stiletto today. I'm not sure where mine is. So I'm just going to hold it with this little paint applier. That's my computer machine complaining that I'm almost out of bobbin thread. Let's see if I can make it round this hexagon border. I think I can. That's my first warning. The pins are there to hold my fabric flat. They're not doing anything else as far as this border goes. Here's where I'm going to use my buttonhole reed. If I put my presser foot down, you see it comes up on an angle in the front. It's not going to produce a good stitch, and it might even kind of hang in this position. So what I do is I lift my presser foot, I put my button reed underneath of it, and it levels out the presser foot. Now it's going to stitch really well. Whenever you have a presser foot on an angle, using either a button reed or something called a jig helps take care of any problems you might have climbing that little bit of a rise. If you can't find one of those, usually a couple pieces of cardboard work or some stacked credit or gift cards that are used up work really well. So I usually use the button reeds, but I've been known to use sewing machine needle packaging, anything that's convenient, because you do not want that presser foot to be moving on an angle. It hardly ever ends up with a good resulting stitch. I'm going to encounter the same problem here, and I'm also going to want to tuck this under a little. I also do something really peculiar right here. If you reach inside this fold, there's a thread that's usually your needle thread. If you pull up on it, not only your needle thread should come up, but a loop should come up that's your bobbin thread as well. And I always pull these two in between the layers of the frame and the decorative panel. And then I let them stay there so that I have less threads to tuck, because I am a thread tucking compulsive person. So I really like to get my threads out of the way, and I'll even thread a needle with the threads and tuck them in. It's just one of my idiosyncrasies, but you can get rid of the threads by doing that. And I'm going to trim these when I'm finished. Okay, when I finish, I always leave long thread tails, which I'm going to pull through the back and tie in a knot, and then thread in a needle, and then hide and bury somewhere in the padding of my quilt. Here you see the finished table runner. It looks pretty good. Even though the stitches don't fall exactly straight, it wouldn't make any difference if they were in coordinating or matching thread, because you see on the back it looks like great hexagons. And so the stitches look straight from the back because they're in black thread.